What's up, guys? Nick Schiffer with NS Builders here in for Paul this week on Real Talk with Real Pros. We got Dettmore joining me just in a few minutes. We're going to be talking about a couple things. Catherine, I see all the waves. Here's Zack. So Zack is logging on now. Like I said, Nick Schiffer with NS Builders. Zack,
Hello.
how are you, man?
Good, man. How's it going?
Doing well. Has it started snowing down there yet?
I don't know. The curtains are closed behind me, but
It's probably a good thing, right? It keeps the morale up.
exactly. But yeah, so far so good.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I know I asked you, probably right in the middle of your work day. What are you working on right now?
What am I doing? We got a renovation going. That's sort of our big home spot, and then I stepped away to meet with the HVAC guy for some little HVAC job we're doing. So
Nice.
like bits and pieces, sort of in the middle of that pre-holiday,
Yeah.
trying to squeeze a lot in.
I swear every year we make a conscious effort to slow down into the holiday. And I mean, I feel like I've definitely improved, but it's never set up the way we hope. But Zach, for those who don't know you, what's your company, where you located, that kind of thing.
So we're Dettmore Home Improvements, located in New Jersey, just outside of Manhattan, and we do kitchen and bathroom remodels. And there's four of us, and we pretty much focus on the finish aspects of the job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been following you for a long time. We've got to know each other over the years. And I think just recently you posted a slideshow of a couple kitchens that you've done. And, I really appreciate the fact that you kind of found your niche and really perfected it. And across different genres and different aesthetics, that's really, for me, outside looking in, it is incredibly impressive.
Oh, thanks a lot. I'm glad I've projected that I've really
Well,
that
this
I've
is
really
the other thing is that
found
I've always told you how much I appreciate your comedic side to, just bringing the comedic side to your social media and the industry and just the business, right? It's a stressful business, and you oftentimes bring this sense of, I watch your stories and I just laugh.
Yeah, that's sort of my coping mechanism, but I also feel like you can almost fool people, and I find myself fooling myself sometimes. Like
Yeah,
it's a challenging business, as you know, and you have to be able to laugh at it sometimes, because we are sometimes freaking out over details that are when you zoom out really seem inconsequential. Yet I'm like, I'm gonna need you to rip that out. It's
right.
16th of out, and then I'm like, well, let's have some context here. Like that side of the house, it's like 6 inches out and 10 feet, but over here we're like,
No, it's got to be within a 16. I mean, it's true. We are truly our own worst enemy in this industry, especially when, your sole focus is on continuing to get better. And,
yeah.
and with, things with social media, everything is so microscopic. Everyone gets to look at the good of what we do, and we're constantly judged on it. And I think that probably plays a big role in it. With that being said, how in the last few years has social media really impacted your business?
I think it has. It's connected me with a lot of designers who have sort of springboarded the type of job we're working on, and I think it has the influence I've received from people like you, who are sort of pushing the envelope and making me feel more self-conscious about my game and wanting to step it up. That's sort of been huge on a personal level, but then there's also the ease of sales. Like I did a sales call last night. I've never met this guy before, but it's basically like he wants to hire us because he
Yeah.
knows us through social media, and it's basically, is the price going to be right for him? And I'm not telling him my whole backstory. I'm not wasting air saying, what separates us from the competition. He already
Right.
knows that. And it definitely takes a bit of a weight off my shoulder having to not rehash sort of this generic sales pitch about what makes me different, knowing that 8 people came through the door before me, all with their nice polished sales pitch.
Right. Do you think that by eliminating the need for you're calling it the sales pitch, you've been able to springboard your business into the niche that you've created, or really focused on other things to improve yourself or your business?
I think so. Yeah. It's definitely, um, people sort of see what I put out. So I get client feedback like, oh, I heard you said you were very busy, but I'm still reaching out to see if you're available to do a job. Or I know you only do kitchens and baths, but would you do this patio job? So I feel like I'm not, it has allowed me to sort of pick and choose jobs and also sort of
Sure.
put out into the ether what I'm looking for, and those jobs somehow find their way to me. And it's almost like I'm not a very spiritual guy, but it sometimes feel like, wow, this is working
Yeah,
somehow.
the stars align, right? All through
Yeah,
all
it's
through the use
impressive.
of social media.
Yeah, because it always seemed like, when I was starting, you're never attracting. You were saying, how am I going to get that $100,000 job, that $300,000 job, that $400,000 job? And now I'm not getting calls for $2,000 jobs. So it's interesting.
With that being said, let's talk about the favorites and least favorites about the industry as a whole. In your business and in construction and renovation, what are some of your favorite things about it?
I think my favorite is I like the physicality of the work. So I like sort of working that hard work muscle every day. I do feel very depleted after a day of paperwork. Um, and I don't feel that way after doing a kitchen install or
Yeah.
sort of working through a day of framing, and definitely the problem solving ties into that. So we do mostly renovations. We don't do a lot of additions, and we don't do any new construction. So it's everything's dealing with existing. So I like that sort of that puzzle. That's good on a personal level. And then finally, just the transformation, like walking into a space that was dilapidated and then went to a gut shell that ends up with this high performance, high technology, high quality box is pretty cool.
It's funny, you make the reference about hard work versus office work. And I remember, and I have this conversation a lot, is that when I could be outside working, sweating, being absolutely filthy, and at the end of the day, I actually don't feel as though I'm gross. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, whatever. Like I stop sweating, I feel totally fine. But a day in the office, I go home and I feel gross. I feel like I have to shower, and it's just
yeah,
it's because it's different. It's meant like it's brain work, and your body is, like you said, you're depleted from being in the office all day. But it's just this different type of work, and I would relate. It's one of the things I miss most in the business is not being part of that physical work day in and day out. Um, and the transformation thing is funny, and we talk about it a lot. Is that you do a really good job, you especially on social media, where you post the before and after. And a lot of times I'm sure that there's you get caught up in the moment, right, where you're looking at that 16th detail and the job's completed and you're forgetting what you came from. You
right.
forget that it was a gut shell at some point, and you're getting hung up on this one paint line that you can't get right. And then at the end of the job, oftentimes we're off to the next job, but by capturing it through the use of photography or video, you're able to then remind yourself, like, all right, that's a pretty good job. Like that there is something really gratifying about that.
Yeah, and I think it's also good for the clients to see, because they're always sort of focused on the current crisis. Is that metal finish going to be right, or
Right.
are we going to finish on time? And it's nice for them to have that juxtaposition at the end when maybe they're focused on the two details they don't like, and go like, oh yeah, this has come a long, long way.
Yeah.
you
Do you
know?
it's funny, the word juxtaposition, do you feel as though that has spiked this year? I'm gonna be totally frank with you. I've never heard that term until 6 months ago.
Really?
Ever in my entire life. And then everyone's been using it. Every single designer is talking about, the contrasting and juxtaposition. And today I used it for the first time ever. And
You're like, I'm gonna roll this out.
I was like, that felt so good. I feel like I'm part of this tribe now.
I don't know. I don't know if you've probably read about this, but I'm exceptionally intelligent. So,
I do know that.
I've probably used it once.
You probably used it in kindergarten, right?
I actually have it written on the wall. You can't see it, but I have it like words to use during
Yeah.
this live event. Juxtaposition.
Perfect.
Mythic.
Well, you've certainly beat me to it. With that being said, let's talk, I don't want to dwell on the least favorite, but what are some of the things that you hate about this industry?
I think it ties back to finances. One of the things that I come back to, and I find myself having this conversation a lot lately, relates to why we're trying to sort of break the sort of mold of what a general contractor is expected to be in the tri-state area, and it's sort of this R13 fiberglass insulation and overlay cabinet package with some applied corbels. It's just going to look halfway decent, and I find myself having a lot of these conversations like, oh no, we can hit your budget, but we're not really interested in hitting that budget because that architecture is not going to stand the test of time. And I think that's sort of my least favorite thing that I've been coming up against lately is just having these conversations about budget, and it just drains on me, because at a certain point in time I'm beginning to get this attitude like, well, don't hire me then. If you don't want it to look gorgeous, don't even hire me. And
which, I mean, to be fair, it's it's for their benefit as well as yours, right? It's if you were to take on that project, you end up in this position where you're essentially squeezing all of the juice out of what you can do, and with no room. So when something does go wrong, or there has to be a change, or something just doesn't look right, there's no opportunity to go back to the table and be creative, because someone is extending themselves already to work with a high quality contractor, and they're at that ceiling. And that's I've been there. I am there. I probably will continue to have those conversations, but it's very real. And I think to go back to the beginning of the conversation, positioning yourself in a niche, but also eliminating that need to get to know who you are in the businesses, has probably helped a lot in that conversation.
Yeah, it has. And even last night I started shooting like a video series for the 3 types of projects I'm interested, that I don't know if I'll necessarily share it with the public, but it's basically like 20 minutes about bathrooms, 30 minutes about kitchens, and it sort of runs you, hopefully runs the client through, this is all of the FAQs that are coming up, and gives them real numbers from projects we've actually done. And that's why I'm not sure if I want to share it, because I'm not sure how comfortable my clients would be with me saying, here's the picture of the project, there's the price, right?
Right.
But that's sort of what I'd like to do,
Yeah, no, I mean, not that you're asking for my opinion, but I think that it totally makes sense not to share that isn't necessarily it's not really beneficial to the public. What you'll get is, and you'll end up getting feedback as to, you charge too much, or that's too much, or all of that, where if you can hone into your market and you get a good lead, and rather than hopping on the phone and walking them through your process, being able to share a video, it's like, hey, I know you're interested in renovating your primary bathroom. Here's a video that we did. This is dedicated to the way we approach bathroom renovations, the steps that are important to us, what's important to us, and here's a couple price points to the size and what they look like in the end.
Right.
And they're now vetting themselves. They're saying, hey, this is way more than I want to spend. Or maybe it's the other way around, saying, hey, this we're aligned with that. We watched the video. We appreciate your attention to detail. We understand the cost, and we're ready to move forward. I think that's incredibly smart. let's as we roll out the end of this year, obviously, we can sit here and talk about COVID and everything else and how difficult and it's been, but great it's been for business and et cetera, et cetera. What were some of the biggest challenges and lessons learned this year?
How much of this do you want me to dwell on COVID?
I don't know, maybe 40%.
40%. All right. Yeah, I mean, so much of my business has been tied up in that, but I'll talk about definitely sticking to my guns has sort of been important this year when it comes to doing what I think is right for my employees and my customers, and not really waiting for what the state says is the right idea,
Right.
or what my plumber says is the right idea,
Right.
or what my client says is the right idea. And that sort of helped me like hold the reins of the business through this. I haven't sort of waited to see what was going to happen, because that sort of gave me a bit of anxiety.
Sure.
So that's been helpful, and also sort of knowing when to just go for it. Like, we've had projects that were held up because we couldn't get permits through, and we just rolled the dice and hoped that they would come through, and they did, and it worked out. And so being very safety conscious, but also knowing when to be a little bit cavalier also paid off. There's been some positive things, like taking advantage of Zoom meetings has done huge things for just my family time. Being able to jump on a Zoom call from home instead of packing up and going to someone's house has been nice. And it's one interesting shift that sort of happened is we were kind of trending towards a bigger GC style company where we were subbing more and more, and then COVID hit, and it sort of became more beneficial for me to just limit the amount of people on the job. And that's sort of been a bit of a difficult thing for me to balance, because the direction I was headed was we're going to sub more, and then the direction we went was our current renovation, which is pretty sizable. We framed the addition right through paint. We subbed very little. We subbed drywall, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And we, from building the cabinets to painting them, 100% of that happened with 4 people. And that's not really what I had in mind, because it's like, it's too many disciplines for 4 people to try and master. So there's a ton of wasted energy that I just show up and I'm like, ooh, look at all this money we're losing. Like, we've got saws and we've got paint and we've got tile, but so that's been a struggle.
Do you think, looking back, I guess looking towards, the next year, and, granted, we kind of roll out of this COVID thing and get, develop some sort of new normalcy, right? But do you think that you'll start headed back down that larger GC path, or do you think what you've honed in on in the last, say, 12 months or 9 months, that you feel as though you could continue down, basically retracting back to the more in-house work?
It's a question I'm struggling with, because
Sure.
I feel like to truly remain profitable, you do need to have one person doing the same thing every day to sort of get to that level of craftsmanship. So I need a painter that's always painting, a tile person that's always doing tile, and a carpenter who's always doing trim. And I think that's probably going to mean like a 4x growth that I need to hit to sort of keep rolling projects ahead. And that also means really taking me out of the field probably 2 more days a week to deal with design. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to either get there, or I will probably tend towards just doing finished carpentry and painting in-house. And then we'll probably bring in a tile sub and a framer, obviously, because we're never going to be production framers. It's not going to happen.
Right. No, I would agree with that. And it's, I feel like there's so many people in this industry that teeter back and forth, and myself included, as to how much do we want to be handling in-house, how much should we be subcontracting, and it's it's largely a personal decision, right? It's, more about what you want versus at least what the industry says you would be more profitable if you were just a paper contractor.
Right.
And it's like, I get it, but that's not what I want.
Yeah.
And and it's like, part of me doesn't care, but the other part of me is like, I want to also prove you wrong. I want to show you that I can be more profitable by having these guys in house. And it's nothing against the guys or the business model, but it's like you said, it's, having someone that is framing day in and day out versus the guy that's primarily doing interior finish and then has to go up and do a hip roof. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll figure it out.
And I paid that guy to do that hip roof.
Yeah,
It was
and
not a
it's
profitable hip roof.
no, and it probably never will be, because it's like, all right, let's get out the roofing calculator and the book and let's run through, like, I gotta recut that rafter again.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so it's about streamlining and becoming really efficient, and systemizing it. And I think that, obviously that was the road you were going, and kind of retracted a little bit. Beyond that, looking, forward into the next year or a couple of years, what are some of the things that you are really looking forward to?
Uh, I think sort of being more choosy in the projects we're getting. We're getting so much volume this year, which I'm sure you're experiencing as well.
Yeah.
It is allowing me to be a little bit more critical with what I'm choosing, and I can sort of see down the pipeline, like, oh, this is the architect I want to work with. This is the type of project I want to take on, and I can probably be a little bit more stern with potential clients about the type of energy efficiency I want to work into the project, versus typically I end up folding a bit on some of those because of the age of the house we're working on. It doesn't make sense to, if you're not doing the whole thing, to really take it to that next level. So I think that's sort of, I know it's important to me, and I don't want to do trendy work, and I don't want to do leaky or drafty work, and sort of saying no to some of those projects that are just facelifts, or I'd like to also do a little bit more design in-house, because I think that's something that's been a lot of fun, because we started doing that a little bit in July.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, to second the partial renovations, or like you said, the facelifts, they're difficult. And I can think of one that we did just, probably a year ago to date, and we get callbacks for things that we had no control over. The HVAC
Right.
system went down. It's like, but it's 15 years old.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm happy to be out there and fix it, but it is, and being stern with that and saying, this is, we want to build a really great product, and being stern with that sets you up where you're not in a position where they feel as though they spent all this money and they still have an HVAC issue, even though it was
Yeah.
never part of the scope, and it just doesn't make for a good relationship long term.
Yeah, it's tough. I've been having a lot of conversations. We're getting a lot of people sort of coming to our area from Manhattan, and they have a lot of money because they're selling these expensive apartments, and they're buying garbage houses. And it's interesting to have these conversations, like, oh, if you spend $800,000 renovating a house, it's still like, you may not have windows that open. It's still like a really old ancient house, and you could spend like a ton of money, and it doesn't mean it's a new house. It's
Right.
still like a flawed product. And are you okay separating with that much cash and having like a kind of wonky house at the end? There'll,
Right.
there'll be nice parts, but there'll
Yeah.
also be like, your window won't open.
Right. It is. And like to full circle here, it's like setting that up from the very beginning, understanding who you are as a company, and for a client to be able to vet that up front and really appreciate the quality and the work that you guys continue to put out, and have promoted, is going to continues to set you up in a position where you get to be more choosy. And I feel as though each and every year, at least for us, each year our choosy threshold moves up. And it's like, last year I would have definitely taken that job, but this year it doesn't fit the bill.
Yeah, and you almost, your hand is forced though by your overhead, and
Yeah.
the type of work your employees want to do. So
It's a delicate balance.
there's a sort of, there's growth that needs to happen and there's growth that has to happen.
Right. So I have one last question. What are your thoughts on TikTok? And are you on it?
So I was waiting for countertops the other night, and they said they'd be there at 5, and they showed up at 8. So I was on it
Accurate.
as of Wednesday, I believe,
At
and
5:30.
at 5:30, and I don't know what it is, but I could see myself getting very into it. I like it a lot.
What would be your approach? Would it be professional or would it be solely about Zack on a personal level?
I think it'd probably be professional because I don't actually partake in social media like as a hobby, probably
Right.
because it's grown into such a
Job.
a bit of a job, right?
So
So,
what would be your approach professionally?
uh, honestly, I think I'd have the same effect that I do with Instagram. Like I always, my approach to social media has always been, I'm not going to focus. I'm going to cast a wide net, and I don't know what's going to work. I'm just going to go for what's most viral, and then hope that because there's so many people visiting my page, one of them is a good fit for my business. So I think if I think dancing in my tool belt in the garage is going to do that, I'll do that. If I think talking about like nitty gritty paint thinning techniques is going to do that, I'll do that. But typically that's sort of, it's like a shotgun approach to
Sure,
social
yeah.
media marketing. I'm like, I don't know what's going to work. Let's try it.
No, and that's one of the things I like about it is you always have something different on there, and even from the overlay images that you do, kind of pointing out all the things, it even from a client's perspective, they can look at that and be like, oh man, there's a lot of coordination there. He's got 6 different molding profiles and he knows exactly where they go and they all look good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, your approach to kind of understanding what the audience is looking for is a smart one. So for those that want to follow you on TikTok, and myself included, what's your handle on there?
It's going to be Dettmore 101. That's
Dettmore 101. Where's the 101 from? I know I've asked you this before.
Oh, it was just my first email address when I was like 12 or something.
Good for you. I was one of those kids that changed it every week. It was like I get a new BMX bike and be like, now I'm a GT Performer, 118. So
I lied. It was my second email. So it was originally hyperdude48 at yahoo.com.
we should go back to that.
Yeah, then I went Dettmore 101, and I've been Dettmore 101 ever since.
That's awesome.
So,
well, Zach, I know you, I'm sure you got more work to do today. I appreciate you hopping on today and chatting with us.
My pleasure. And thank you for having me, and thanks for all you do for the industry. It's always a big inspiration watching what you're putting out there.
I appreciate that. I owe it to the team, and you keep up the good work, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Cheers, Nick. See you later.
See ya.